Hello everybody, it's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. In this video we have Kaitlyn Bristowe continuing to break down some aspects of her relationship or fallout from her engagement to Jason Tartick. In this case, she actually addresses fans picking sides and talks briefly about all of the hate she's receiving from older women. And that might be anecdotal. We don't have any, as far as I know, Bachelor data hasn't jumped into the age bracket of online hate. It probably exists across age spectrums. Although, with age comes people thinking they know more than somebody else. So maybe there's something to say about that. Now, don't get offended, my boomers, my Gen X, my elder millennials. Don't get offended out there. It's going to be okay. If you didn't cause the hate, nothing to worry about. Whenever I even mention the B word, boomers, I get old folks up in arms. How dare you? We fought in Vietnam, whatever. And it's like, look, okay, not to paint with broad strokes here, but Kaitlyn, of course, has been through hell and back in her time in the Bachelor world. She has received plenty of reward from her notoriety as one of the biggest bachelorettes of all time, but it comes at a cost, that being how wickedly slut-shamed she was on her season of The Bachelorette. I've talked to her ad nauseum about this with regards to how much it can just take a toll on your mental health. Oh, just avoid it. These ideas we have, these ideas of, just don't look at, stay in your lane, like all these things. And it's like, sure, that would be a great idea. But could you imagine if someone was getting assaulted or a victim of a crime and he was like, well, don't walk down the alley, just stay in your lane, don't wear dresses, all these types of things. It's like, no, she's a victim of, and it might not be illegal, but she's a victim at the very least of people mischaracterizing her or are expecting the worst out of her or thinking she's this or that, and it can probably wear down on you over time. All right, do me a solid. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals, patreon.com/Dave Neal for behind-the-scenes bonus content. I'll be live at 10 a.m. this morning to talk about the continued behind-the-scenes BS I'm dealing with right now. So if you want to support the channel, the best way you can do that is to join the Patreon. And every afternoon, Bachelor Rush Hour, the hit podcast. Let's jump right into it. Here's Kaitlyn Bristowe's podcast off the Vine, this title, Grape Therapy, Delusional Confidence with Gabriella Halakis. And here's what the segment where she discusses ending her engagement to Jason and the fallout afterwards.
Feeling like defeated time and time again and feeling like you're just so tired of always making the change when you feel like nothing's getting done.
Yeah.
But it almost lights a fire under my ass of like, holy like,
so much needs to be done.
Much more needs to get done. Like no matter how far we've come, we still need to go farther.
Well, even, I am, like, I just think as women specifically, like we all deal with our own things. Like
totally.
There's this, do you know the Beyonce song, I woke up like this?
Yeah.
Okay, there's this one like middle part in the song where it's this guy talking about how as women we are taught like, do you remember this part of the song?
No. Well, maybe.
I'm getting like so much hate from older women just for like calling off the engagement with Jason because they see him as perfect and I must be the problem. And because I'm really loud and I'm like, I share all my insecurities and I share. So they like double.
So I'm going to share with you guys a little bit about misogyny, which again is like a hatred or contempt for women. It obviously comes in different forms, and why female misogynists exist. Now, this isn't to say that, this isn't to let male misogynists off the hook. That's just specifically, Kaitlyn mentioned women that hate her. So we're going to discuss the different, archetypes of female misogynists and why they might hate Kaitlyn. And you might say, well, maybe we just hate her because she's whatever. And it's like, well, probably falls into one of these categories. And I wanted to respond to this comment from NKB420. Bro, you make money by talking and gossiping about a dating show. You're acting like you're doing God's work. My response was, is that how I'm acting, bro? And then they responded, 100%, but you're stuck now because you're making good money hacking this content. You definitely think you're way more important than you are. Well, I like to think that I'm, showing up to do an honest job every day. It provides value in the sense that I'm keeping people company throughout some maybe lonely times. times, whatever the case may be. But I definitely don't think I'm necessarily doing God's work. As far as I'm concerned, I have to pay taxes. If I was doing God's work, maybe we could file for a church status and not have to pay whatever the case may be there. But very strange comment. I don't think this is God's work at all, but I do think it's interesting that we can look at someone like Kaitlyn Bristowe, discuss what she's going through, and then maybe we can learn from it. Maybe we can all be better versions of ourselves. I don't know if that's God's. Let's call it humans work. Dave Neal doing humans work here, one click at a time, right? Strange comment, felt the need to respond.
Down on certain things, but I'm not going to play because it's actually kind of a long part, but
which I hate.
It's just like you feel sometimes that you've come so far, or you see things where it's like, yes, the change, and then something happens where it's like 2 steps forward and like 10 steps back
every time. And that's so relatable, because I think especially being in our situations, or like having a platform or being online and being public, you can do everything right, and you can make so many people happy, and you can empower women, and you can do things right, no scandals, no nothing, and like you just have your head on straight, and you're killing it, and you're working hard, but you do one thing, or have one incident, or you have one tiny thing that you maybe say that can come off the wrong way, and it's like it takes away from all the good that you do. And kind of what you said, like you can do everything right, make so many progress in your life and so much change, then you have one incident in your life, or one mishap, or one thing, or one situation, and then it's like 20 million steps back. It's the weird.
I'll relate this to social justice because I think most of the time people online that are holding influencers or alumni or whoever to a higher standard think they're doing something good. They think they are pursuing social justice, which I think most people want social justice. I just think we're going about it at all the wrong ways. I'm a progressive person. I vote for predominantly all progressive causes and issues, but I wouldn't align with the culture of people trying to slam others for their missteps. Kaitlyn Bristowe, this random Canadian, worked at a restaurant. She's elevated herself into one of the biggest aspects of a niche world, which is Bachelor. She won Dancing with the Stars. She's got clout. She's got equity. And what she's doing with that is discussing her relationships so others can see what she's going through, heartbreak, love, and everything in between. She's sharing her personal tragedies. She's sharing her personal accomplishments. She's educating her audience by having insightful guests on that talk about addictions and online harassment and bullying and all these types of things. Kaitlyn Bristowe is a damn asset to the community that consumes her content. She leaves them better than she found them. And that's what a good content creator does. That's not Kaitlyn Bristowe doing the Lord's work. That's Kaitlyn Bristowe understanding she's got a sort of privilege that she has been put on a path to have that platform, to have that audience. And yet, when we complain, or I shouldn't say when we complain, when Kaitlyn mentions that there's these older women that don't like her and everything, a lot of people go, oh, woe is me, who cares, whatever. There's always going to be online haters. But I don't think it's futile to have the conversation about who these haters may be and why they may be hating on her. That's not doing the Lord's work. That's just trying to break down and understand humans. Like their male counterparts, female misogynists are driven by either hate for women, who stray from the feminine ideal, or contempt for women in general on account of their alleged inherent filthy nature. For instance, their association with bodily stuff or their manipulativeness. Now, they say filthy nature a lot, but what you have to understand, it's part of a larger article where they tried to describe why women do not like other women. And you don't need me to mansplain it for you. I just found this interesting. Female misogynists, who are most salient in America today, fall into 4 categories: the Puritan, the self-hater, the self-contemner, and the she-devil. Now, what's interesting is, obviously, with Bachelor audiences, we have different religious backgrounds, from Jewish to Catholic, evangelical Christians, atheists. There's a whole line of Muslims. There's a whole melting pot of Americans who watch this show, some of which may fall into a Puritan belief where they see Kaitlyn Bristowe as someone who isn't married at her age of late 30s, who had sex before the fantasy suite. Oh, good gosh, that type of stuff. The hateful male misogynists, The Puritan, so like the hateful male misogynist, the Puritan regards the ideal woman as thin, trim, youthful, pretty, alluring, mild-tempered, nurturing, compassionate, non-promiscuous, not too ambitious, ladylike. What makes the Puritan a misogynist is not her support of the feminine ideal, but her hatred of women who purposely distance themselves from conventional femininity in traditional gender norms, such as feminists, career women, and working moms. So already it looks like Kaitlyn fits into this. She's career driven. She doesn't have any kids. The relationship didn't work out. None of which is anybody else's problems. But there'll be people out there saying, well, if she was only, all of these different things that, maybe, as we armchair diagnose, you could find a truth within some of it. It's Kaitlyn's life to live. So, despite regarding themselves as domestic goddesses, Puritans are often public provocateurs who have made it their life's mission to discipline their lost sisters and eventually get them back on the right track. So, they talk about mommy bloggers and YouTube channels and some of those self-righteous people. And they talk about Michelle Duggar, who's a Puritan female misogynist. She believes in submission. So, that's the first type. The second type is the misogynistic self-hater. The second type, this obviously self-hatred exists online for sure. The second type of women-on-women hater is also prone to hatred of women who purposely distance themselves from the feminine ideal and the traditional gender norms. For example, women who are competitive, controlling, prone to anger, or who behave in a manner that isn't ladylike. She pays homage to traditional gender norms and uses any opportunity she sees to preach their social virtue. Men should be dominant alphas. Women should be soft and compliant. But unlike the Puritan, the self-hater regards herself as one of the badly behaved women and despises herself for lacking the willpower to become more feminine. Self-haters tend to be in denial about their own self-hatred and sometimes also about their hatred of other women who purposely go against the feminine ideal. So again, it can be very complicated to know who's who when you're talking so vastly about online haters. It feels to me so far like the Puritans fit into more of the online haters I see with regards to Kaitlyn Bristowe, why they don't like her. Being loud and this and that. So they have different types of characters of what behaviors exist online. And like I've always said, shining light in dark places, it's the greatest disinfectant. So educating ourselves about what exists out there, you might just not say, oh, that person's an a-hole. Well, maybe, but maybe they're just like a Puritan who believes in certain ideals and Kaitlyn doesn't live up to that, which doesn't make those beliefs right. But when we can see them, it's a little easier to call out. The misogynistic self-contemner, one of the two contemptuous female misogynists, has internalized the myth of female filth. As a result, she has adopted a general attitude of contempt toward everyone of her own filthy kind, including herself. She regards women as inferior to men. In her view, women are inferior to men because of their inherent negative qualities. For instance, their promiscuity, manipulativeness, dishonesty, irrationality, incompetence, or stupidity. She tends to be in denial about how her own self-contempt underlies her judgmental attitude toward other women. Now, there's a spectrum for everything. We may fit into different aspects, and again, I'm a male here, so this is a sort of gender-based, which of course not everyone applies into it. It's in general, like broad generalities here. So not everyone's going to fit into this, but you can fit into one or multiple of these in lower levels or higher levels. It seems like the type of person that would send Kaitlyn hate would fit into this on a higher level. The misogynistic she-devil. The second strand of contemptuous female misogynist sees herself as superior to other women and on level with, if not above, the top alpha males. So this is people this is the devil wears Prada type of people, the CEOs, the she-EOs, not all, but the ones that feel like they need to step on others and are better than other women. So anyway, it goes on, and it's very fascinating. It's very fascinating to talk about the hate that exists online. I'm going to be talking about this more in my next video, which is Becca Martinez talking about all the hate she's received. Is the internet making you feel meaner? You're not imagining it. People really do act differently online than they do in person. Here's why, and I'm going to get to that article and talk more about this. But good on Kaitlyn for acknowledging that there are people out there that are providing hate her way and how unreasonable it is. While you could ignore it, I think the days of us telling others to ignore things should be over. I think it's a war worth fighting, and maybe there'll be some changes made, whether it be social media companies do a better job of screening out people that are operating based on hate. And you might think, oh, do you really want to live in an echo chamber? And I always say this: the world's tough enough, folks. The world is tough enough. If we need to live in an echo chamber in our DMs, then hello, bring the echo chamber on. All right, I'll be back with more content right after this.